Yes, good evening. You're listening to Sports Side. Jason Cunning and Sam Delaney taking it to 1 a.m. We've been talking West Ham all evening, and now I'm delighted to say join us on the line now, who has phoned us up. It's the West Ham co-chairman, David Sullivan. He joins us on the line now. Good evening, David.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for phoning us up. What would you like to say?
No, I'd just like to say, some of the nonsense. We get tweets about Andy saying he came back in a terrible condition. You get tweets saying he's a drug addict, all this sort of complete and utter drivel, and it breaks my heart. I mean, he's twisted his ankle, which we thought was nothing. We then bring him back quickly to the world's leading expert in Baltimore, who says he needs an operation. He'll be out 4 months, and it is devastating for us, devastating for the club, devastating for the supporters. But it's a horrible injury, and it seems to be one injury after another. But sometimes with players, what happens is they have a long spell of injuries, then they don't get injured for years. And I could show you examples over the years where players look very injury prone and they never get injured again. And another player never gets an injury, and then he gets injured all the time. There's no logic in any of it,
David, are there any plans to buy another striker or bring another striker on loan for this?
We have to bring in another striker. I mean, we're working on it now to either buy one or loan one or both. Because you can never have enough strikers, and really, with Andy gone, we haven't got enough.
Yeah, we discovered that last season, David, when obviously we were struggling for that long period.
No, it was desperate last season.
Andy was out. I'm assuming that Valencia was bought to play, therefore not in Andy's role, but perhaps out wide.
Valencia can play all three positions. Yeah, his best position is in the hole, coming late off a big centre forward, as is Zarati's best position. But Valencia can also play wide. He started as a winger, and he was only converted to a centre forward in the last 12 months. So he's a high-scoring winger. But Valencia's not that tall. When you actually stand next to him, he was in my office last week, and he's not that big and not that tall. Although his leap is enormous, he outjumped England centre halves to score against England. His work permit application is on Tuesday. Hopefully that should be a formality, but you never know with these things. I mean, the way our luck's running, but that should be a formality. I'll be devastated if it's not. I mean, he scored more goals than the England football team at the World Cup, so if that doesn't make him an exceptional talent, I don't know what does.
That wasn't difficult though, Dave. But
no, I know it wasn't difficult, but he's still in the top 10 goal scorers in the World Cup, and his team got eliminated. He scored every goal for his country in the World Cup. So it's pretty impressive. If someone had got 3 goals for England, we'd be through to the next stage.
Dave, listen, £15 million is a lot of money. It's a huge amount of money for West Ham.
It's actually more than that.
It's about let's say okay. Well, it's 15.
And it goes up depending on where the joke is we finish in a certain position in the table, they get a pile more money,
right,
whether guys play the game or not. And he's also the highest paid player in the history of the club.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. We probably made a mistake in. As I say, don't put all the eggs in one basket. And we've got an awful lot of eggs in one basket. So the old proverbs or cliches are very true. But at the same time, we have to accept this moment in time. The player's devastated, the same as we are. And we have to make the best of it and get on with it. But in the meantime, we have to get some points.
Was there any sense of regret after the last summer? We did put all our eggs in one basket. And to be fair, us Hammers fans were really chuffed when you made him a permanent signing.
Yeah. No,
was there regret that you hadn't split the money up and maybe signed sort of more than one player?
No, had we known what we know now, but it's easy to be wise after the event. I've said before, you wouldn't have signed the player, but at the same time, you have to anticipate. We was assured by our physio, who has since left the club, that the player would be available for the start of last season. He wasn't available till January or February. So, a mistake was made. We were given wrong information, and we based our decision on the purchase of the player based on medical evidence, or not evidence, but what the medical department told us. And we've changed everything in that department as a result of that. So, at the same time, on his day, he is a devastating and fantastic player. He's just got to get him back to his best. And but at the same time, we can't start the season with the strike force we've got. I don't think it's good enough. I don't think there's enough height in it. And if we get another injury, in terms of quantum, it's insufficient. So, we have to sign at least one more player.
Dave, the West Ham fans, as we know, are incredibly vocal, and they were vocal on this show. They're certainly vocal at Upton Park about the style of football, and Big Sam and the fans had a little bit of a fractious relationship. Now, there was a lot of meetings, we believe, at the end of last season about the style of football. Teddy Sheringham has been brought in. Can you give us a flavour of what those meetings involved?
Well, basically, we told the manager that we want a more attacking form of football. But at the same time, the manager has to pick the team. It's his decision what he does. We're more involved with the transfers this year because we think we haven't spent our money well in the previous years. And we hope we'll spend it a bit better this summer. But, it's not easy. I mean, you get Arsenal go and spend £30-40 million on one player, and they're the teams we've got to compete with, so it isn't easy. But we think what we bought this summer is better value for money. And we got at least we got some more lottery tickets that could turn into jackpots.
And what about Teddy Sheringham's involvement? How did that meeting go, and how did Sam receive the news that Teddy was involved?
Sam picked Teddy. I would assure you that we just said we want an attacking coach. He thought it was a good idea, and Sam picked Teddy. It was his number one choice. And if Teddy just gives us 1 or 2 goals that we weren't going to get, it's a fantastic achievement. And it could make a huge difference to the season. And I just think we didn't get enough goals from set pieces, from corners. There wasn't enough movement. We just didn't score enough goals.
David,
I think
a lot of fans will say that when we got Big Sam, it was hardly an unknown quantity. It was well known exactly what his approach to the game was, his tactics were like, and it was well proven that he'd been successful with them. Therefore, how would he respond how did he respond when you and your co-chairman said, well, actually, we want you to adjust that model that we hired you on the basis of?
Sam actually thinks if he has the players, he can play very attractive football. I know Tony Pulis, for example, is known as a similar type of manager, but he's determined this year to show to the public that Crystal Palace can play very attacking good football. That's what he'll be bringing in, a different type of footballer. So, I mean, what we do need a plan B. That's all we've said. And we didn't have a plan B last year. And we have to vary it game to game. And that is the plan.
How influential were the fans about that decision?
I think they're very influential. You must listen to supporters. I mean, if you take the whole game, it wasn't the Swansea game, the whole game, where we won against 10 men and Sam put his ear to the supporters, the booing, which was a very strange thing to do. But I must say it was a very, very strange evening because it was a game that was vitally important. We won it, and I felt as low as I've ever felt in 20-odd years as an owner of a football club where we won a game. It was the most strange evening, and I don't know why. We should have all been elated, but we weren't, and I felt exactly the same. And there were games last season, I had tears in my eyes, I mean, Notts Forest, Man City, it just isn't good enough. That said and done, we have a contract with the manager. We believe in honouring contracts. We stick by our managers. We have a history of sticking with our managers, and that's what we intend to do. But we've raised the bar a little bit. I mean, Sam was never told that survival was his target every year, and that's a complete myth. I mean, we may have said that is the minimum acceptable achievement, but that's not what we're aiming for. We're aiming for to be up there competing with the good teams, which isn't easy. But we'd love a cup final. We'd love to get into the top 6. Top half would be quite good. But you have to start the achievement with the ambition that you're going to be competing at the top of the table. To disable 17th is a success. Well, I don't think it is. It's not a disaster. It's not a success. If that makes sense.
David, we fans were left in a sort of a kind of a hinterland just after the season ended, in terms of there was reports of meetings and so forth. How seriously did you and David Gold consider relieving him of his duties? Because it seemed to be reported that there was a moment, a few days, where you were seriously contemplating it.
No, I don't think we ever contemplated. Only if Sam was unreceptive to what we saw as the future in terms of attacking a bit more, bringing in new players, us being involved with the transfers. And we're not mugs. We've been in the game 20 odd years, and I just looked at what we spent the last 3 years, and there's not a single player we get our money back on, let alone a profit. And it's not that we want to sell them, but you'd like to have on the field players with a value in excess of what you paid for them. You've actually got a better team out there. So, you know, we're not a selling club. We haven't sold a player of any significance since we've been at the club, and we don't want to. At the same time, you want players to be out there justifying their fee and playing like a player of their cost and value and wage, if not higher.
Well, perhaps the reason we haven't had bids in is because, you know, we bought Matt Jarvis. You broke a record for Matt Jarvis, and Matt Jarvis is a great little player, but he's not worth more than you bought him for, like you say, and then you broke it again with Andy Carroll, and it's the same situation.
Yeah.
So we haven't actually, I assume, I mean, I don't know, you do, we haven't had bids in for any of our players.
No, we've had the bids in for virtually nobody at any stage. And, you know, this is why we want to be involved in the buying. Not, I would stress, not that we want to sell anybody. It's because we're not a selling club. But you just like to think you've got 3 £25 million players out there, because then you've got a better team. And what we want to do is build and buy a better team. And that's why we bought a few younger players. We've bought so many old players, playing it so safe. You have to gamble at some point and buy a few younger players. And we bought a few younger players this summer. We've also bought Mauro Zarate from Argentina, who is a fantastic, fantastic player, if he's given his chance. And he will shock a few people. I mean, we had him at Birmingham when he was 90. And he's a fantastic player. And he's the current leading goal scorer in Argentina. We're currently bringing in the leading goal scorer from Mexico. And these are good players. I mean, it's a complete myth that, you know, the English players are the best. Right. There are some good English players, but they're very expensive. And what we're bringing in are players who could be top world-class talents. And we hope they'll prove it. But unfortunately, we've lost a key ingredient, which is Andy, who is a fantastic player. And then there's a few games. I mean, his first goal against Sunderland last year, when we played against Swansea, he set both the goals up for Kevin Nolan. But, you know, in life you have to overcome these things and get on with it. And I'm devastated for the club, devastated for myself and the board, devastated for the supporters, and devastated for the player.
Well, all of us
we
fans,
won't be seeing him for 4 months.
All of us fans are devastated. Just one last quick one, David. We really appreciate your time. Winston Reid is reported to have rejected a contract offer from you guys today, and there are also question marks over Ravel Morrison, two of the fans' favourites. What are their futures?
Well, I think we will get to a deal with Winston, and we're also trying to negotiate it. I mean, Sam has said Ravel is not part of his plans, but we as a board do see him as part of our plans.
So Sam has said what? Sorry, Sam has said what? Ravel's not.
I think he said in a press conference, if I read it correctly, that he's not part of his plans for this season. I think he said that in New Zealand, but we don't agree with that. And you know, we would like to sit down and give him a longer contract. We do like him. We do see him part of the long-term future of the club. But we have to agree with the manager, because, you know, there's no point signing a player who's not going to play. So, you know, both balls are in the air as regards Winston and Ravel, but both the players we like very, very much.
Dave, listen, I really appreciate you phoning up.
Okay.
It's been fascinating speaking to you. Make sure it's not the last time you phone the sports bar as well.
No, I won't do it again. Once a year. I'm sorry about that.
Dave, really appreciate it.
I'm sat here listening. Cheers.
Well, usually we rely on young Jack to keep us updated.
Yeah, no, Jack gives you everything. Jack on Twitter. Jack Sullivan, WHU on Twitter. He's the man.
Dave, listen,
okay.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sullivan, have a great summer. WHU. Cheers.
There you go. Cheers. David Sullivan there, West Ham co-chairman. Any thoughts on that, West Ham fans? Some brilliant insight there to how West Ham is being run. Ravel Morrison, he has been told. Sam Allardyce said he doesn't want him there, but he just heard there the co-chairman saying